It's August 2023 and Atlas has a game coming up called Persona 5 Tactica, a tactical-based JRPG based on the Persona 5 series. Now, I know I haven't talked about the game that much on this channel, but there's a reason for that. I find myself not being that excited for it, and I'm actually quite skeptical about it. Why am I skeptical about it? Well, today we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to give you my reasons why I'm skeptical about Persona 5 Tactica. Sit back, relax, let's get it on. Hey guys, what's going on? King Narakami here. Thank you all so much for joining the video today. We're going to be talking about Persona 5 Tactica today and why I'm kind of skeptical about the game. However, before you proceed, just know that all of my opinions that I give here are strictly that, opinions. This is all subjective, so don't fucking roast me in the comments section if you somehow just don't agree with me. I expect a lot of people to disagree with me on this video, and that's exactly why I'm making it. I want to get my thoughts out there about Persona 5 Tactica because I know I haven't talked about it much, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So we're going to start off really strong here, and we're going to be talking about the art style of Persona 5 Tactica. Now, when a game is first revealed, the first thing you generally notice is the visuals of the game. And from the start, Persona 5 Tactica's art style is really just a mixed bag for me. On one hand, it looks like they're trying to emulate Persona Q's chibi-inspired art style, and truth be told, I do like Persona Q's art style. I think the characters are cute, everybody looks great, and you gotta remember, it is a 3DS game at the time, and they are working with the limitations of the system, but we're going to be going into that later. But to me, Persona 5 Tactica's art style doesn't have the same charm in my opinion. I know they're going for a more cartoony and comic book feel compared to the Q games, which is fine, and I just personally don't like the design of the characters. The models look weirdly disproportionate, kind of like a cartoon. But look at the way Ann looks in this right here. She looks like a hot dog or like the balloon animal Mrs. Puffman on that one episode of SpongeBob. It doesn't feel right to me, and the art style is kind of ugly to me. I know when I first saw the first trailer, I was like, maybe I could get used to this, but so far, the more I see about it, the more I just am against this style. And I just want to let you guys know, I know I mentioned the 3DS earlier about Persona Q working with its limitations. While I might not be a fan of the way the characters are designed for Tactica, one thing I will agree on is that I don't think the art style makes the game feel cheap at all. You know, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and everything recently say that Persona 5 Tactica looks cheaply made and it should be a $60 game because of its art style. And I don't agree with that whatsoever. I mean, the Q games themselves released at full price for 3DS games and everything. Just the chibi art style together doesn't mean it's a cheap game at all. I mean, there's voice acting that has to go into the game. They're making, I'm assuming it's a new engine from the ground up for this game. I might be wrong. There's a lot that goes into this game, and just because the art style isn't to your suiting, doesn't mean that the game should be less than $60. This is a big game from Atlas. It's going to be their big release for the fall of this year, and at the same time, the chibi art style should not dictate the price of the game. While I'm not a big fan of the visuals, it can't be argued that this is a deliberate design choice by the people who made the game, and it shouldn't speak to how the game is valued. I mostly enjoy the gameplay of past Persona spin-offs like Persona 4 Arena and especially the Persona dancing games because of my familiarity with the genre. See, I love Persona dancing. I love rhythm games. I've been playing rhythm games since I was a kid. Persona 4 Arena, I used to play Dragon Ball FighterZ and everything. I've been playing fighting games as a kid. Not so much anymore, but I had generally enjoyed the gameplay of the spin-off Persona games. However, I cannot say that I'm a big fan of tactical RPGs to begin with. I just can't get into it. There's a lot of strategy that goes into these things, and when I tend to play a game, I kind of like to turn my brain off, have a drink, and just have fun with the gameplay and the story. And to me, if people love Fire Emblem, I know people love Fire Emblem, I just can't get into the gameplay. It's just that there's some sort of mental block for me with tactical gameplay. Maybe this game can change my opinion on it, but that's another reason why I'm skeptical. It could be a skill issue. Some people could be roasting me right now in the comments saying, oh, King Narakami doesn't want to try new stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm just not a fan of tactical gameplay. Now, I'm not saying that turn-based games are brain dead. Tactical games definitely aren't brain dead either, because you really have to think about your decisions carefully, and tactical games in particular require a large amount of planning and strategy, and it can really feel like a chore sometimes. Some may say that this is the true Fire Emblem and the SNT crossover that they've been hoping for. But as someone who isn't into this genre of RPGs as much, I find it really hard to get too exciting. And, you know, who knows, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised like I was with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. You know, that was more of a strategy RPG more than anything, and all I did was turn it on easy, which is probably what I'm going to do with Tactica when I do play it. Put it on easy, enjoy the story, but that's a whole nother thing. And speaking of story, we're going to talk about that right now. Persona 5 Tactica's story takes place before the very end of Persona 5. More specifically, it takes place between February and March in Persona 5 story, so before the ending and way before the beginning of Persona 5 Strikers. While we're returning to see the same characters that we know and love and meeting some new ones along the way, we all know at the end of the day that everyone's going to be okay. There's absolutely zero stakes involved in the story, and that's pretty much what keeps me engaged with a lot of games, especially like story-driven games. The stakes, not knowing what's going to happen at the end of the story. That's another thing that I'm a big fan of the Persona series for. There's a lot of stakes when it comes to the story and everything, and all the drama and the stakes surrounding the story is what really keeps me engaged with the title other than the turn-based combat. Hell, even Persona 4 Dancing story takes place after the events of Persona 4, and there was a lot on the line since you had no idea what was going to happen with the group after the game. To me, Tactica's story is stuck in this really weird loop where by the end of the story, probably no one's going to remember what happened in the game, like the Persona Q story. All the characters forget what happens at the end of the game and they just go on with their lives. Or the story and the events surrounding Tactica is just awkwardly just never talked about again with the fantasies at all. It's in that weird space for me. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are not going to like this opinion in particular, but like I said, this list is subjective and it's how I feel about the game. If the story doesn't have any stakes and I know the outcome, it could just potentially lose me. Maybe Tactica will have an amazing and gripping story, and I could be completely wrong and look like a dumbass at the end of the day. All I know is that I really hope that the story itself explores characters' backstories more, really introduces the new characters to you very well, and I just hope we don't retread the exact same thing of Persona 5 or Persona 5 Strikers, because those stories were kind of similar in some ways, and so I hope it's not a complete retread of what we've already seen before. Since Persona 5 Tactica was announced beside of Persona 3 Reload and ReFantasy's big reveal as well, I feel as though hype for this game has really been overshadowed. Persona 3 Reload is a game that fans have been wanting for a very long time, and ReFantasy there's been silence on it for years and we have had no idea what was going on, and the big blowout of information that we had was a big event for me. So I feel like Persona 5 Tactica was left in this really weird space as that third game that was announced, and just no one seems to really talk about it as much as, you know, a Persona 3 Reload, a complete remake, and a brand new IP from Atlas that everyone has been looking forward to as well. And to add to the bad timing of the announcement, it was then revealed that Tactica would be releasing the exact same day as Super Mario RPG, another remake that has had a lot of people been wanting it for years, clamoring for its release and wanting it to happen. And not to mention that Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, is also coming out a week before Tactica's release. I just feel like all these factors have really caused Persona 5 Tactica to just be overshadowed, and the information for the game that we received just dampened, and just no one just cares as much. It's really hard to compete with something like Mario, especially since they're both RPGs coming out on the very same day. November is going to be a very busy month for gaming, and unfortunately, Persona 5 Tactica drew an unlucky straw for its release date. So the timing of this game couldn't have been any worse. And yeah guys, that's about it. That's all the reasons why I'm skeptical about Persona 5 Tactica. It's not to say I don't think the game looks good or anything. I'm sure it's going to be a fun game. At the end of the day, maybe we can just sort out this whole video as maybe the game's not meant for me, but we'll see. I'm definitely going to be playing the game at some point. And I hope I'm 100% wrong in all of my opinions here. I hope I take the L. I hope I am labeled a complete fucking dumbass. I hope that the game does really well, because at the end of the day, it's more Persona 5. I just had to get out my thoughts about the game, because at the end of the day, I don't take everything Atlas does and eat their ass about it. I'm very critical about the products I consume and really want the best for everything that's released. So that's just my opinion about Persona 5 Tactica. What do you guys think? Do you share any of the same opinions? Do you think I'm a complete dumbass? Let me know down in the comment sections. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video, and if you fucking hate my guts because of this video, leave a dislike. And also, if you did like the video and left a comment, remember to subscribe to my channel for more Atlas content. I'll see you guys in the next video. King out.